One of the most controversial debates of current society is sex differences, both physical and psychological, between men and women. For the most part of human history, people have thought that our differences are predetermined by our genes. Nonetheless, a new theory emerged, with the premise that our dimorphism was originated by social discrimination and pre-established child-rearing systems. This is the point of view that is typically taken by social scientists. In response to this nurture-only theory, the evolutionary biologists tried to explain this question focusing on the study of known human animals. Based on the premise that some of the dimorphism in humans might be genetically based as a result of the process of natural selection. This would mean that the things that ages ago enhanced male selection didn't always enhance female selection and vice versa. And as a result of evolution, men and women nowadays have different genes from their ancestors. Number 1. The size. Most females in small invertebrate species are bigger than males, while in larger vertebrates it's just the opposite. Number 2. The sex drive and promiscuity, which is statistically more accentuated in males than in females in the majority of species. Number 3. The choosiness when it comes to picking a partner to mate with, which is more typical on females. Number 4. The ornamentation, like eye-catching colors and freaky body parts like large tails, which is more abundant in males than in females. Number 5 can be easily misunderstood. It's the payment for mating, which is usually done by males to females. This means that a male offers advantages to a female so that she permits him to mate with her. These payments can be from food to territories and protection. Number 6. The aggressiveness towards mating competitors, which is usually higher in males than in females. Number 7. The built-in weapons, such as antlers, spikes, or bigger fangs, which are more usual and more aggressive looking in males. Number 8. Sexual bimaturism. This means that one sex grows up faster than the other. In the case of the majority of the species, these are the females. Number 9. The longevity. Females statistically live longer than males, which in more quantity perish in the fights for females. Number 10. Child rearing. This is usually performed by the females of the species. The answer is simple. Parental investment. Males technically can have way more offspring than females can because they can spend less resources on offspring, whereas females have to invest a pregnancy and later resources on their children. Having this in mind and acknowledging that having offspring is the main goal of a species, it's easier to understand the origin of the above stated differences. Males need specific genes that push them to mate with as many females as possible in order to have as many offspring as possible. These genes will be a strong undiscriminated sex drive and a high aggressiveness to fight with mating competitors, and this will result in bigger and more aggressive individuals. At the same time, because females invest a lot of resources in their offspring, they need a gene that makes them choosier towards mates. They will aspire for the best male so that they don't waste these resources. In sum, males prioritize quantity, whereas females prioritize quality. However, dimorphism comes in degrees. This means that there are species like the gorillas in which males are much bigger and aggressive than females, and others like the gibbons in which both sexes are of equal size. This happens because gorillas are polygynous and have to maintain harems of females, and to do so they must fight their competitors, and as a result they evolve to be bigger and angrier than females. On the other hand, gibbons are monogamous. They just have one partner for the rest of their life, so males don't have to fight competitors more than females do, and therefore both sexes are of equal size, and are choosy. This is called mutual mate choice. First, the differences between men and women aren't as big as in other species. Second, we have mutual mate choice, which means that, like gibbons, both sexes are choosy and compete for mates. And third, about ornaments. Not only men have ornaments, women have too. The former have V-shaped torsos, whereas the latter have bigger breasts, which the opposite sex often find attractive. Another example between us and other species like the peacock is male parental care. Human babies require a bunch of resources, more than what a single woman can actually provide. That's why mothers need to be held by the fathers. This fact affects our species in three different ways. First, because human men invest more in offspring than other male animals do, they need to be picky in order not to waste their resources. Second, male investment is a valuable characteristic for women, so they compete with one another in order to mate with the man that invests more energy, time, and resources in their offspring. And finally, because both sexes are choosy about their mates, both evolved their equivalent of the peacock's tail. That's why both sexes in the human species have ornaments. In summary, Monogamy and parental care lowered the maximum number of offspring men could have, and from that evolved a system of mutual mate choice in humans. We do still exhibit most of the sex differences in our top 10 list, but they are not near as exaggerated as in most other species. Great, we now know which kind of animal we are and our degree of dimorphism. Now it's time to discover the evolutionary origin of our differences. The first difference we are going to talk about is the tendency to have casual relationships with many individuals. This tendency is typical of males in most species, but when it comes to humans, everything gets more complicated. If we ask the population via anonymous questionnaires, we will find out that men, indeed, have more sexual dreams, spend more time thinking about sex, and masturbate more. On average, men are more willing than women to have sexual relationships in the absence of a close relationship. They are more prone to casual sex. These results have been backed up by a real-world experiment performed during the sexual revolution and before the AIDS crisis, in which people were offered sexual relationships by a stranger. 75% of men said yes, and the rest declined the offer apologetically. All the women refused the sex offer in quite an offended way. Similar experiments were performed after this one in different parts of the world, and all came to the same conclusion. Men are, statistically, more likely to say yes to a stranger's sex offer than women are. The differences in this case are quite notable.
The reason why seems to lie deep in our evolutionary past. Imagine you live in a pre-modern society and you want to pass your genes. If you were a man, you might think that the best way to spread your genes is to have as many children as you can, and that you do not have to put so much effort on raising them, you would probably choose the option of sleeping with many women instead of choosing only one. On the other hand, a woman would be picky and would think about choosing the fittest man to have fit children. In any case, she could never have as many children as the most successful man, because having children is much more expensive for her than for him. But this does not mean that men are not interested in long-term relationships or that women are not interested in casual sex. In addition to pregnancy, other factors exist. First, danger or risk. Women place themselves at a greater physical risk by going off with an unknown man than a man does with a woman. Second, the impact that society has on women's sexual behavior. It is not the same even in nowadays society, a man that sleeps with many women than a woman that sleeps with many men. Thus, people weigh up the costs and benefits of casual sex and act accordingly. In conclusion, we've got two possible explanations for the sex difference: the evolutionary explanation and the sociocultural alternative, known as the nurture-only theory. Nevertheless, the most persuasive argument is that this difference can be found in many individuals who have no gender norms or socialization, even in other species. Thus, the nurture-only theory clashes with everything we know about how evolution works. It occurs in a great diversity of species that females are choosy about their mates, but males are not. However, humans are not that kind of species. Both sexes are choosy in long-term relationships. There are some differences on what men and women prefer. Men place more importance than women on a mate's look and youthful appearance, and women place more importance on mate's wealth and social status. Why? The evolutionary explanation would be that youthness and good looking could be a synonym of health, fertility, and good genes. On the other hand, females in many species prefer males and can provide them and their offspring food, resources, or living space. There are two theories to explain why it seems to be true also in humans. Male investment explanation. Because human men commonly invest in their young, women tend not to choose their mates solely on the basis of how wealthy they are or how good their genes happen to be. In fact, ancestral women who preferred men who were more willing and more able had more surviving offspring, and thus this preference spread. Good genes explanation. Ancestral successful men tended to be genetically fitter men, and that's why women evolved a proclivity for men displaying these traits, not because such men would invest in their kids, but just because they would give those kids their superior genes. These two explanations are not incompatible. It is possible that both factors contributed to the evolution of wealth and status preference.
Referring to sex differences, we shall not only take into account the anatomical or biological ones, such as men have penis and women have vagina, or the hormones which regulate sexual behavior, but in fact we should take a regard on the desire for good looks, wealth, and status in a mate, which are known to be crafted by natural selection, not being products but causes of evolution. What does this really mean? The answer is that men and women, in effect, selectively breed each other for the traits they most want in a partner, the hopes of finding certain characteristics in their partner. Because of this, sex differences rely on, for instance, the dominant sex to be obsessed with wealth and status, men, and on the other hand, women being more merely focused on beauty pageants. In other words, men look in women beauty while women look in male a high social status and wealth, and both perspectives are thought to ensure each sex a better life and offspring. Evolutionarily, men evolved to be less parentally inclined than women due to the mating opportunity cost, because the time and energy devoted to caring kids is that one not devoted to chasing new mates. However, if the difference is regarded culturally, it is thought to be reduced due to the social roles change of who takes care of the house and the kids and who goes to work. But if we go in deeper detail, the innate contribution probably helps in social roles of parental care found in every culture. When becoming adults, women are expected to act as women, and men are as a social role of men. And moreover, we observe the physical differences related to pregnancy and lactancy, which are obviously related to women.